Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sharon, and this is Classy Shades Designs. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. One of the last rooms that we need to complete down in the basement is this craft room. It's just an empty shell, and I needed to be able to store all of my craft supplies. So everything that is out here in this space, which was originally in the garage but needed to be moved into the house so that we could park in the garage, needs to go into the craft room, which means that at some point in time, I am going to have some cabinets. So that's what we're going to work on today, adding these brown cabinets that I picked up both at Lowe's and Menards up on this wall so that we can start to fill this room in and make it an actual crafting space. After almost cutting my finger with a measuring tape, I went ahead and measured out where I wanted these cabinets to be. Now, I was thinking originally that I would have these cabinets all hang, all three of them together, but at the end of this project, of course, that changed, which is usually how I work. I see something originally and then start changing it. Here you can see me starting to figure out what height I want the cabinets to hang. As a 5'3" individual, I am used to having to step up on stair steps or on a stool to get something, but I don't want to have to do that every time I look for something, at least on the bottom shelf. I want to be able to just reach in and get it. So these will hang a little lower than the average cabinet, custom cabinet, but that's the part I like about hanging them myself. I'm going to make this custom to my height. So I started out by getting the leveler and leveling off the area where I want the cabinets to hang. And then I also made sure that I leveled where the studs were so that when we hang the cabinets, we would make sure to be driving the screws into a stud. Now, because I am a first shifter, my husband is a second shifter, I tried literally to hang the cabinet by myself, but I did find out that there are limits to my power and I could not do it. So I had to wait for the weekend in order to get these hung. My husband woke up early to help me get them hung, and I didn't get the camera out to start filming that because if you've seen him in the morning, he is like a grumpy bear, and so it was just easier to use him while I had him, and he taped off for me. And what you see here is the first layer of primer that I have on. This floating shelf I created, it didn't have the footage for that, but if you want to see that, how I created a floating shelf, leave me a comment down below. I've got some other spaces where I could use that, and I'll record myself building a floating shelf to put it down for you guys to be able to see that. So you can see how I ended up separating the cabinets, giving myself room in the middle for my floating shelf. And we've got the first layer of primer on. Everything seems to be going smooth and easy. And yes, I cleaned out all the rest of the junk that I was working around. Now it's time to sand. What I wanted to do was make sure that when I paint these cabinets that the paint went on as smooth as possible. The best way to ensure that that happens is sand in between your primers, in between your paint coats, and in between your finish. And so here you see me just sanding all the rough edges, not real deep because I don't want it to take the paint off. I just wanted to get these finishing as smooth as possible. And I believe I was using like a 220 grit, a real smooth layer of sand paint or sandpaper. And then we come in with a second coat of primer. All right, so I've come outside now in the garage. I've got my little makeshift workbench set up here, my little horse, so that I can paint. And I just wanted to stop to give you guys a real live view of what happens. A lot of DIYers on YouTube, when they're crafting, make things look like it just is smooth and easy. It's not. My makeshift little horse has kind of tumbled the things here and there, but we're making it work. But what I did realize is that this, you have to prime. If you ever decide to do this with raw wood, do not skip the priming. You may need 2 or 3 coats because if you see here, this is just really soaking up that primer. And this is just my first coat. So we'll have to do another 2, maybe 3.
And I also thought that when I first started this was fairly smooth and I wouldn't need to do any sanding. But as I've got the primer on here, I can see now it's revealing the rough edges around the bottoms, and I didn't know that that would be like that. So we will have to do a little bit of sanding afterwards, but we'll keep going.
So pulling out my DeWalt palm sander, I just lightly, again with the 220 sandpaper, just lightly went over each one of the doors and paying special attention to the edges to make sure that we had it sanded smooth, to make sure that they adhere to the paint very well. And once we were done with the sanding, I went ahead and did another layer of primer. And I'm not going to paint them right now. I'm going to wait until I get everything in the room ready, and then I will paint the entire room at the same time with the high semi-gloss paint. So we're just about done. I'll take these in the side and hang them, and here's a sneak peek of what's to come.